All right. Well, hello, everyone. Jenn Payeur here, and I am thrilled to be with one of my dear friends, the world-renowned, legendary, yes, that's right, Raymon Grace. Raymon has been promoting dowsing, lectures, films, books, newsletters for over 25 years, and I think you're up to about 160 countries now. And he did this without a day of college, no letters after his name, and definitely no suit and tie. Absolutely not. One of the things that I love about Raymon is he's blunt, he's authentic, he has high integrity, he is to the point, and he stands for freedom. That is his mantra. There is no substitute for freedom. So Raymon, so thrilled to have you here, and we are going to be focusing a lot on women. You good with
Okay,
that?
that's fine. I really appreciate the invitation because I have never done a talk show like this before. So
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it. So you lead the way, and I'll see if I can keep up with you.
Okay. Well, here's what I've noticed. So I've had the honor and privilege of coming to 5 of your classes in the last 14 months. One may look at that and say, wow, she's on the slow bus. Why does she have to keep going back to Raymond's class? Each time I come, as you know, I bring people. And one of the things that I've noticed is your class is mostly women. And
Yeah.
you and I had a brief conversation a couple of months ago about focusing on women. And so that's where we're going to go today. And, the main thing we'll start with is, why do women have a harder time with confidence, shifting their energy? Why do you think so many women are drawn to your class and to getting support from you?
Well, my classes will range from 70 to 90% women. Some classes have been 100% women. A few more men now are coming than what once did. Uh, but why do they show up? I often wondered that. I think I figured it out. It's because I empower them. My business is empowering people. I'm not looking for a following. I don't even want a following. It takes too much trouble to deal with them. My goal is to help people get in charge of their own life. And I think that it's the freedom that what attracts women. That's my opinion. Now, historically, women have been beaten down probably in all of recorded history. And we're going to get into that in a little bit because I'm going to tell you how I think we might have brought that to a screeching halt. But when did women first start being able to work? Maybe back in 1920s or so, a little bit. When they really started being able to get into the workforce was during World War II because there weren't enough men to go around. So that's when more women started into the workforce, and then it has changed, increased ever since then. Women have, in my opinion, have gained an awful lot of personal power in the last, let's say 60, 70, about 70 years, 70, 80 years, something like that. And it still seems to be increasing. That is, now, look, I'm no authority on this. I'm just going by observation. And I think the reason that the women come to my class is the word gets out that this guy teaches self-confidence, he teaches empowerment, and they want that. And I think that's why I have far more women come to class than men. And that's fine with me. I sometimes wish I could get more men to come to class, but it's what it is. But I'm thankful for the women that come, and they come from literally around the world. That always surprises me. So what we've done, Jenn, just this week, we have made the classes available to people anywhere on the planet. April finally got the webinar started, and so far as I know, it's working. So I'd like to tell you what the plan is. See, it costs a lot of money for people to come here from Europe or South America or Asia or Australia.
Mhm.
They spend far more money on getting here than what they pay me for the class. The class is very economical compared to what they spend getting here. But some people just can't afford it. So as an answer to this, we are making the class available for 2 weeks. They play it as many times as you want in the comfort of your own home with your excuse me, with your family watching, if that's what you want to do. For the same price of the class, and you don't have to spend any money on travel. So we're really doing whatever we can to make this information available to people, both men and women, worldwide, at a reasonable fee. And so that's the most new thing that we have to put out. That is available now for a heck of a lot less money.
And if I recall, Raymond, that webinar came from a class that you filmed, so it's almost like being in class.
Yeah, exactly. I filmed it in class with a few friends in a small office building. Actually, just last weekend, there were a couple in class that I had used their office to film in. So it was an in-person class, and I watched it, filmed it some years back, but I watched it and I think I can't really do any better than this. There's no point in trying to refilm something. So it looked good enough, so that's why we're doing it.
Okay, amazing. So they can find that on your website, correct?
They can. As far as I know, April has the information on the website right now on how to order it, and it's the best deal I've been able to give people.
Okay.
Both economically and time. We did it before, but we had the time limited on it more. Here, we're giving them 2 weeks to watch it as many times as they like.
Okay, that's fabulous. Exciting, exciting. I love that you're constantly trying to find ways to get information to people, especially the ones that can't make it to your class in person.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
Well, that's just what you said it better than I did. That's what we're doing. We're reaching out to make it affordable to more people.
Okay.
So, okay, go ahead with your questions.
Yeah, so let's come back to empowering women. So can you share a few success stories of how you've used energy work to help empower women, help increase their confidence, being able to trust themselves, etc.?
Yes. Matter of fact, you might have been in the class with this person. I won't call any names, but I have a feeling you were in the same class as this person. And she was 60 years old, and she had never been out of debt in her life. Within 30 days, she was totally debt-free. Not only that, within 2 months later, she bought her a new car and paid cash for it. She had never done that in her life. And
Wow.
she just keeps going. And there was another younger woman from India that was with her, and I talked to her recently on Zoom, and she was just a different person. Her eyes were brighter. She was smiling. She was happy. Why? Because I had empowered her, or she had empowered herself. Either way you like. But I've done a few Skype sessions with her, or Zoom sessions. I always encourage her. And by golly, it worked because nobody had ever encouraged her before. She'd always been beaten down. Well, that's one of the things I like to do is encourage people. It really doesn't matter if they're male or female. I like to encourage them to reach their potential because there's just too much discouragement in the world where people have been beaten down, and especially females. I mean, it goes all the way back to beginning of time, as far as I know. There have been exceptions. Yes, there have been queens that weren't beaten down. There have been female rulers, but overall, that has been in the minority. And the average female had trouble getting a good paying job. It was just, life was a struggle for them. And I just thought I don't know how much I can do about this, but at least I can be nice to them, give them information to give them self-confidence and empower themselves.
So how much of that relates to belief systems that are either generational, ancestral, in the collective of how women perceive themselves, how they perceive their own level of confidence?
Well, it's probably all of that, the belief system, because our belief system is the dominant factor that controls everything that happens to us. As Henry Ford quoted, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right. Well, they had always been told they couldn't. Well, I think by coming to the class that I teach, I empower people. That's the purpose of the class, to empower and encourage people, to give examples and stories. And you've been to 5 classes, so you understand this. I give stories with examples of how use various techniques, mostly positive thinking and imagination. Imagination is one of the best tools that anyone can have, whether it's male or female. And I think so many females imagine themselves as they have been told to imagine themselves. You need to step out of the box, and your imagination is unlimited as to what you can really do. So,
And your intention, right? Your intention
yeah,
helps.
and as Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. So, the first step in achieving anything is to imagine achieving it. And it's simply based on another Einstein principle of energy follows thought. The first rule of success is think of what you want, not what you don't want. Well, if, and since this discussion is about women, they haven't been encouraged to think about what they want. Why? Because their mothers and grandmothers didn't know to tell them that.
Right.
There are a few exceptions, yes, but overall, I think they were told how to behave, what they were supposed to do, how they were supposed to act. And there's not anything wrong with this in many cases, but still yet it is a limiting belief system.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting along that line of thought. I have a healing practice here in North Carolina, and I work with a lot of women, and I ask the question, what makes you happy? What brings you joy? And they kind of just look at me.
I'm on Skype. I can't talk.
They kind of just look at me. Your phone rang anyway, didn't it? So I have women who look at me and say, what do you mean? It's like they haven't even thought about what they want, right? Because of the conditioning and the belief systems that have been passed down through the generations.
Well, they didn't know they had a choice.
Right.
If you don't know you have a choice, then you might as well not have one. So the first thing that I try to do to people is tell them you have choices. That's the best thing I can tell people.
Right.
And stop and think. If you had to have a choice of whatever you wanted to do in life, what would you do? Most people, I don't think, have ever thought about it.
Right. That's exactly right. That's what I see.
Yeah, yeah. So you and I are in total agreement on what you're saying here. And I think what I do to help them is to say you have choices. I've had a number of girls, and I don't keep notes on any of this, but I've had a number of friends tell me my life has totally changed since I've been friends with you. Why? Because I taught them you have choices, so take them. To think of what you want. Setting goals is the first step to achieving them, regardless of how ridiculous the goal might possibly seem to be. You know, you've heard me give classes tell a story in class about how I bought a large tract of land and did a number of things and never went in debt for 1 cent. I did it because I believed I could. Well, this is what worked for me will work for you. It will work for your clients. They have to believe in themselves.
Yes. Yes, and I left your last class last weekend really saying nothing is impossible. I mean, that's how much my belief system has shifted since I've met you and become friends with you is I'm trying everything. And
Hmm.
it's actually been fun um,
Yeah,
to,
oh yeah.
to work
Yeah,
with the energy and empower myself.
well, winning is always fun.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
And abundance and prosperity is fun and health is fun and all of the things
yeah,
that
the story I told was logically impossible by uh, standard way of thinking, but I didn't know it was impossible.
right.
The way I arrived at some of this is learning from a bumblebee. You see, according to the law of aerodynamics, a bumblebee cannot fly. The wings are too short, the body is too heavy. But the bumblebee don't know that. Since it doesn't know that, it can fly. Okay,
Right.
that's how I accomplished what I did. I didn't know I couldn't.
Yeah. And that comes back to the conditioning, right? The programming and conditioning and the brainwashing that we've all grown up with religion and military and all of the things.
You're right. And most people are taught don't question people that are older than you are. I think you should question everything you've ever been told.
Right. Yeah. Don't question authority, right? Is what
I
we've
don't
been,
believe in authority.
right.
I just simply don't believe it. It's something people have manufactured
Right.
that they want everybody else to go along with. I don't believe in it at all.
So one of the things you share in class is how to brainwash yourself. So will you
Yes.
talk about that a little bit? Because I think that's a really powerful tool to use.
The first step of success is think of what you want, not what you don't want. Why? Because it applies the second principle. Energy follows thought. Wherever you put your thoughts, you put your energy. Everything is composed of energy, literally everything. So if you worry about and believe what you were told in school, in church, in the military, and I bet in all of them, they were not empowering. They were disempowering. So
Right.
I decided I was just not going to believe anything I'd ever been told, and I would make my own decisions whether I believed on whatever I wanted to believe.
And so how did you brainwash yourself? How did
You
you,
brainwash yourself by thinking of what you want to do and what you can do. Now, let me explain something here, and this will apply mostly to females, and I've used this so many times. And matter of fact, I was using this just this morning on one of your friends. Uh, that had a very unpleasant experience happen in college. I won't get into any bloody details about it, but it was a very unpleasant experience. I went back in time and shifted everything around. I won't get into details here, but I changed it. And then I said, okay, how do you feel now? Felt like it never happened. That was one of the better things that we have discovered is what I call traveling through time. So let's make this simple for those of you who are watching out there. Think about, and I've never tried to teach this in a video in an interview like this, but I think it's appropriate here. So just speaking to your audience, go back in time before any abusive event happened. And you have the power to create in your imagination an event that prevented that from happening.
why don't
Uh,
we, since we're on this about cleaning up old things that have happened in time travel, let's shift to the women and the curse on women and what you discovered with a few other friends of yours and how you shifted to allow women to feel empowered and confident.
okay, I'd love to tell this story. And it was only one other friend that I did this with. And we did this, I remember the exact date. It was on the 29th of May, 2021 at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So in every class, and you know this because you've been in 5 of them since then, I asked the question, how many women here, show of hands please, feel more empowered now than you did a few years back, let's say in the last 3 years? And 95% of the hands will go up, sometimes 100%. And they want to know why. So I tell them, okay, so here's the story. Now, if we got deeply religious people out there, you may be offended. That is your choice to be offended. I do not tell this story to offend anyone. I'm telling it the way it happened. So those of you who choose to be offended, that's your choice, not mine. I was talking to a very intelligent friend of mine that I talk to quite a bit, and we talk on different subjects. So one night I said, how much do you know about the Bible? And she said, not much. I said, well, let's talk about it a few minutes. I said, there is a verse, and I don't remember which one. I meant to look it up before this interview so I could give you the verse on it, but to be easy to find, it's in the 2nd chapter of the book of Acts of the New Testament that said, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, there was a religious meeting of a few groups of people, and the Bible says that there was every nation under heaven represented there that day. So I got, at the time, I was 17 years old and I read the Bible a lot then. So I got a book of a map that had a map of the Bible times and where the various tribes were located. And all these people, the Pharisees, Sadducees, and a few others I don't remember, were from a little country on the east coast of the Mediterranean Sea called Israel. And the people were known as Israelites, children of Israel, or Jews. And they had their own code of ethics, their laws, and so on. And these are still carried out today by some religious folks, and that's their business. They will not eat an animal unless it parts the hoof and chews the cud. That means cow, sheep, and goats. They do not eat pork. Okay. Then they couldn't, if I have it right, they couldn't eat a fish and if it didn't have scales. So you couldn't eat a catfish. You could not eat shellfish. So there were various things they could or could not eat. And I'm sure they had their reasons for it. They could not sow the field with 2 different kinds of seed. And that might have been to keep from cross-pollination happening. I don't really know. Maybe there was a good reason. They could not wear a robe made with 2 different kinds of cloth. You couldn't wear cotton and wool in the same robe. I don't know why that was, but that was one of the laws. But what really got my attention in that culture, they could sell their daughters. And somehow or another, as many times as I had read the Bible and heard about it, that never crossed my mind, probably because I had been brainwashed. Because most of us have. And I was fortunate enough to come to realize that I had been brainwashed. And all at once I think, I can't respect a culture that sells their daughters. This is ridiculous. And then there was another one. If a girl got raped, the people were to throw stones at her until they killed her. It was called stoning to death. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this picture. Why couldn't I ever see it before? Because I had been brainwashed not to ask questions. Just, this is the way it was. Well, it might have been the way it was, but I didn't have to believe it anymore. And I'm thinking, I can't respect a culture that sells their daughters, and I sure can't respect a culture that throws rocks at women that's been raped until they die. And I think, you know, what's really happened here, there has been a biblical curse put on women. That says, let's break the damn curse. And that's why whenever I ask a question in class, I've asked it in every class I've taught since then. Show of hands, please. How many of you feel more empowered than you did and now about 3.5 years ago? And the hands go up. Usually on an average of at least 95%.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a talk in Australia 3 months after I did this. So I said, I want you to write the moderator, one word, yes or no. Do you feel more empowered now than you did 3 months ago? Out of 57 women, I got 54 yeses and 3 nos. And this is a question that they would have no way of knowing I had done anything because I tried to ask a non-leading question.
Mhm.
So something happened. And I think
Something
what
big
happened
happened.
is well, I got to thinking, I've broken curses on other people before. Why can't I do it on this? So I
Right.
did. Now, like I say, you may get some feedback from highly religious people, and I have nothing against these people. Please don't write me because I really don't give a damn if you like it or not. Okay? This is what I did. I did it because it needed to be done. When people ask me why I do something, I have three answers. It needed to be done. I could. I wanted to. There are no other answers. So,
Well, I
but
appreciate
Jen,
it because
they've got to be something. They've got to be something to this
right.
because this has been 3.5 years now. I have asked this same question in every class, and I
Mhm.
have an average of 95% of the women that say, yes, we feel a lot more empowered now. And they will
Yeah.
stand up and applaud.
I know I have
So,
personally, and I'm grateful
yeah.
because I even asked my daughter, who hasn't been to one of your classes, and
Hmm.
I asked her, I said, do you feel more empowered now than you did 3 years ago? And she said, I do. She said, why would that be? I don't understand it, but I do.
Yeah.
So, the ripple effect is big.
Okay. Now, this is the first and probably only film I'm going to make like this. I won't say I won't make another one, and I only made it for you because I like you and I like what you're doing. So I'm thinking when you ask me if I would do this, yeah, I'll do it for you. So I hope you get a lot of good feedback on it. But if you get negative feedback, that's why they put that little button up on the right-hand side of a computer called delete. Just hit that and that'll solve the problem.
That's what empowerment's all about. Love
Yeah,
it.
it is.
I love it. So thank you for sharing that because I found that to be so much truth and so powerful to help women, and that's what I stand for. I know that's you stand for helping people, but especially women, and I love that about you. So let's wrap up with what has changed energetically over the last 50 years, and what can you do today that seemed harder to do 30, 40 years ago?
Okay. I can answer that one real easy. Uh, I started out about how long ago? 30 some years ago, maybe 40. No, about 35 years ago, doing what I would call Native American or Indian medicine. Why? Because I respected that culture and I felt that they knew some things the Caucasians didn't know. And I was right. They did know some things. Well, I made friends with a few very respected Indian people. Rolling Thunder, who gave them the book, the story for the movie, Billy Jack, and he played a small part in the movie. He was one of my friends. Chief Two Trees, who was an Indian medicine man, herbalist from Old Fort, North Carolina. I stayed with Chief Two Trees, worked with him. I was up to the point when just walked into the spirit world when he was dying. And then there was another lady named Evelyn Rattray from British Columbia, a Towtown Indian. She and I traveled together all across Canada. She came down here to visit me. So I respected these people. They had a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge. So I wanted to get as much of it as I could. So, I made friends with them. That was what I was doing back up oh, into the late 90s. And it worked. I did a lot of exorcisms for people. Uh, well, I won't say a lot, I'll say some. And local people. They lived in a haunted house. So I would take April with me. She was just a little kid at the time. I'd say, April, let's go chase the spooks out of a house today. Because I wanted her to get used to doing things like this. I didn't want her to be afraid of things. So we would go to a house and I would take an eagle feather and I would take a bee smoker. It's a tin can with a bellows on it that you use to create a lot of smoke when you're taking honey from bees. That keeps the bees calmer. But I would put cedar shavings in it. Why? Because the native people use cedar a lot for purifying. So we would go in a house, and I'll give you an example of one. There was a spirit in a house, and there was one room that was cold all the time, and that's where the spirit was staying. And it was the former owner of the house, and she had she was really kind of, I wouldn't say dangerous, but very, very negative. Uh, she wouldn't let anybody else come in her house. So we went in, we opened the doors, and I told her husband to open the window. And April and I go, she follows me, and I go through the house puffing smoke, then like, get the hell out of here. And that was kind of the way I did exorcism. And there was something came through the house, went out the window and down the street with a high-pitched scream. Well, I got feedback from the people after that. The temperature in that room was the same as the rest of the house. It wasn't cold anymore. Everything was peaceful. Everybody was happy. Now, I did a number of exorcisms like that back in the early 90s.
And
they
that's
weren't.
Yeah, that's when you went in person. You were
Yes.
there in person. Yeah.
Yes, I went there in person to do this. Why? Because it was the only way I knew to do it. Now, I did a number of things with a fire. Had a neighbor that had severe allergies to any kind of a chemical spray, and she worked in a nursing home. So every time she would spray disinfectant, her skin would break out. So I built up a little fire one evening, had her come up to the house, and I told her to bring a piece of raw hamburger with her. And she brought it, and I had the fire going, and I put the hamburger down in the fire, and I took the eagle feather, and I would brush down her body, sort of like this right here, and shake it off in the fire. Now, I said, now bring a can of Lysol with you. Now spread in your hand. She did. I said, rub it on your face. She did. No effect. But this stuff worked back then.
Right.
Now, something changed. The energy of the earth started improving. Now, this is about the only way I know how to say this, and I may not be technically correct, but what was happening, something called the Schumann resonance, which was what the Native Americans called the heartbeat of the Mother Earth, that was 7.83 hertz. It started raising. And I noticed that and other people would tell me, what you taught me to do doesn't work anymore.
Oh, interesting.
And this especially occurred around 98. And I noticed something is happening, but I didn't understand what it was. But when I would measure the Schumann resonance, even though I didn't hardly know what I was doing, it appeared to be raising. And I noticed the higher the Schumann resonance got, the less the methods that we had used would work. So we had to use another method, and that was use our mind.
Okay.
And we're able to do things now. Do I go to a house now to chase ghosts out of it? No. I do it and don't even leave the desk where I'm sitting right here. I've done this as far away as Australia. You can't get much further away than Australia than where I live. It's on the bottom half and the other side of the world. Okay, so what did we learn? We learned that distance is not a factor.
Can
So
you
now
expand a little bit more? Can you expand just
Pardon?
a little bit more on that? Because I get that question often, is how can you work long distance? Because it's all
Well, the
energy.
only word I know to give you is by intent. Actually, intent is the main answer I will give to most questions when they say, how did you do that? I did it with intent. Well, it doesn't matter if you're cleaning out Joe's bar in Perth, Australia, or if you're cleaning out a pub in Ireland. It doesn't make any difference.
Right.
Or if you're cleaning out a church in Italy, it doesn't make any difference. Now, what does make a difference is Europe has had much longer to build up a big supply of ghosts than America has. They've just been people there longer, okay? So I cleaned up a church somewhere in Italy recently. No, excuse me, it wasn't a church, it was an old hotel. It was built in the 1500s. Oh, it was one of the most haunted places I ever saw in my life, but it had 500 years to collect a bunch of spooks.
Right.
And it was a mess. Oh, Lord, it was a mess. They paid me well, but they got a bargain.
And so once you clean up a place like you did, What are the odds that spooks move back in?
Oh, real good, because there is a very wealthy businessman that I work for who does a lot of business in London. Well, he stays in the high dollar hotels. I have to clean them up for him just about every time he goes to London.
Okay.
Certain areas of the world are a lot worse than others. I work with a pop star friend of mine in Budapest, Hungary this week. Hotels were fine. I only found one hotel that needed a minor exorcism on the last 6 tours she's made. And that's been in the, wasn't all in Hungary, about 3 of them were in Hungary. Part of them were in parts of Russia. They have far better energy in the hotels there than we do in America. I don't quite know why, but they've got a whole lot better than what they've got in London. Okay, England and Ireland, and I can't say about Scotland, it may be the same. They have got more than their fair share of spooks in the hotels and the buildings. I don't know exactly why. Italy has them. Belgium don't really seem to have any. I don't find that many in Spain. And some countries have a lot more than others. Now, I do more work. I do work every week in London. Why? Because that's where the businessman goes to carry on his businesses. But what I'm going to throw out here is your very expensive hotels have far more negative indies than Motel 6 does. I found this. It doesn't matter if it's Europe or America. I found it. I have some friends that stay in very expensive hotels in America. They just about all need cleaned up. The same thing is true of schools. I won't call any names, but the very high expensive schools in America where they send their kids and pay a fortune to send them there. Most of them have been full of demons. I'm serious. I am very serious. Negative indies, the energy, they're a disaster to clean up. Same thing with high school. If they're in a big city, okay, let's take New York City, Chicago, LA. They are literally energetic black holes. Where I went to school, it was built in the middle of a cow pasture. I could sit in the class staring out the window at a herd of cows. Energy there was good. So the bigger the city, the more prestigious a place is, I find that's where the most evil is. I don't know how the audience is going to take that. It's just what it is, folks. So don't bother to argue with me because I've been doing this for several years. I think I know what I'm doing.
Well, and this is where empowering helps because for women, we typically kind of hold the family together, right? And so women can work to clean up the schools that their children go to. And when their children are old enough, teach their kids to do it.
Exactly. That's what I am really trying to do. Now, that's what I did when April went to school. I simply went to the school to introduce her, to let her introduce herself to the teachers. And I said, if my kid comes to school here, I'm going to clean it up. There's not anything you can do about it. I hope you like it. 3 years later, she brings a teacher home with her. And I said, how are things at school? Oh, fine. Is there any difference now than there used to be? Oh, yeah, quite a bit of difference. Well, when did it change? Oh, 3 years ago. And then the lights went on. She said, that's when April come to school. What did you do? I said, I did what I said I would do. I cleaned the school up. Right. But for some reason, most parents won't seem to do this. So I made it easy for them. I made a film called Change Energy, Change Your Life. It's on my website. Get it, play it, and mentally direct it to the school where your kids go. That's why I made the film. Because most people do not have the courage and the self-confidence that they can depossess a school or that they can do anything in the spiritual world. Okay, fine. Go ahead, keep that belief. Just use my videos and it'll do it for you. I've
Support.
made this as easy as I possibly can for people, and they still miss it.
Well, it
Now,
comes
this
back.
next,
It comes
yeah,
back to whether you think you can or you think you can't. You're exactly right.
yeah. Now, this next Saturday, yeah, today's Thursday. Saturday, I will be speaking for the Tucson Dowsers, and they want me to talk on the raising the energy in schools, which I will gladly do for them because schools are energetic black holes now in a lot of places. That doesn't have to be that way. If we can educate just a few people, I don't expect to educate all of them because a lot of people won't even believe what I'm saying. But I don't let that discourage me. I know what works because I've been doing it for years. And if I can get just a few people believing they can do it, even believing that they can play a video and mentally direct it to the school, we can change. I really believe we can change the schools in America if people will just get up and do something.
Right.
But if you do nothing, nothing's going to happen. If you do something, something might happen.
And then some.
Yeah.
Something big. Yeah. And you got to meet my son, both of my sons, PJ and Ben. And PJ cleans up his school on a weekly basis.
Well, I
And
want you to tell him I'm proud of him.
his
And if he
confidence,
ever needs it, and if he needs any help, let me know.
okay, well, his confidence has gone through the roof since meeting you. And a lot of it's practice, right? It's practice and
Oh yeah.
self-confidence. And the more you practice, the
Hmm.
more self-confidence you have.
Hmm. And you tell him I'm proud of him.
I sure will. I absolutely will. Well, I am so grateful for you to take the time out of your busy day. I'm sure you were cutting trees or chopping wood or doing something. And I appreciate
Oh
your
yeah.
time. So thank you for being
I
here.
don't.
Go ahead.
I don't know how to do nothing. I always have to do something.
Well, and that's why something always happens.
Yep, sure does. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and to your audience out there.
Yes.
You do a good job. I'm always glad to do an interview with you because you know how to lead it. You know how to get things done. So I really appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you too. Don't hang up. Thank you everyone for joining us, and make sure you follow Raymon, go to his site to take his webinar. It's worth every penny and then some. And watch him on the Tucson Dowsers this weekend. I'm sure you'll have more amazing information to share. So thank you.